Many thanks for joining us on KTN Prime. I'm Linda Ogutu. Now, tonight, the fate of the March 4th general election hangs in the balance. A coalition made up of 10 political parties has moved to court seeking to block the elections. The political parties Forum Coalition argues that the announcement of the election date contravenes certain sections of the law. Lawyers for the applicants filed the application under a certificate of urgency, even as politicians oblivious of the development blazed the campaign trail. KTN's Wilkis Tanyabwa reports.
In its election petition, the political parties Forum Coalition is suing the Attorney General, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Commission on the Implementation of the Constitution as respondents. The bone of contention, the March 4th, 2013 date. The petition first challenges this date, claiming that the process set out in the sections 14, 16, 17 and 19 of the Election Act have not been followed. These sections state that the date is supposed to be gazetted at least 60 days by the Commission before the election date, which means that the date cannot be taken as the date of the elections as at now, as this notice cannot be given until the term of the 10th Parliament expires. The coalition says only then can the election calendar begin to run. Thus, unless and until the notice to initiate the general election is published, the Commission cannot lawfully purport that 4th December 2012 is 3 months before that election. This would then mean that the 4th December deadline for political parties to deposit their coalition agreements was illegal. The coalition quotes the court ruling that declared that elections be scheduled for 60 days after the two principals dissolved Parliament, a date determined as the 15th of January 2013. The three-judge bench that made the ruling found that the body mandated to fix the election date was the IEBC. The petitioners further argue that as the decision of the Supreme Court on the gender rule was based on the belief that the first general election must be held on 4th March 2013, the notion that the 10th Parliament would not have sufficient time to enact legislative measures is false. It now wants Parliament to enact legislative measures to give effect to the 1/3 to 2/3 gender principle before the first general election under the Constitution of Kenya. The coalition is made up of various parties, including the Labour Party of Kenya, Agano Party and the Progressive Party of Kenya. Lawyers for the petitioners filed the application under a certificate of urgency. The matter shall come up for hearing in January 2013. Wilkis Tanyabwa, KTN Prime.
David Mwole Kimayo is Kenya's first Inspector General of Police. His swearing in this morning brought to an end the reign of Matthew Itere. Kimayo brings on board 32 years of experience in the police force and has his work well cut out, with the priority being addressing the recent deterioration in security in parts of the country and the terror threats. Catherine Omwanto attended the ceremony and filed the following report.
David Kimayo, a veteran police officer with 32 years of experience under his belt, was today sworn in as the country's first Inspector General.
I, David Mwole Kimayo, having been appointed as Inspector General under the National Police Service Act 2011, do swear that I will be faithful and be a true allegiance to the Constitution and the President of Kenya.
His appointment has been greeted with optimism from various institutions, including the judiciary.
The Inspector General of Police is independent and takes neither instruction nor direction from anyone except on police matters, and even then only in writing. In short, the Kenyan figly called orders from above have been shredded.
Kimayo, who was once the Director of Operations at the Kenya Police and the Director of the Kenya Focal Point on Small Arms and Light Weapons, holds an array of university degrees, including a Bachelor of Arts degree in Criminology and Public Administration from the University of South Africa, and is currently studying for his PhD in Criminology at the University of Nairobi. With both academic and hands-on experience, the top police boss has promised that it will not be business as usual.
We shall spare no effort in our quest to restore security in our country, from the local petty crimes that have run out of control in the neighborhood, the terrorist activities that we are also witnessing that continue to senselessly kill and maim Kenyans, the drug dealers who sell drugs to school children, the notorious kidnappers, the carjackers, the robbers, right up to the murderous incidences that we witness in our country, including a blood sect that we call them Mungiki, Taliban, American Marines, Chinese squad, and so forth and so forth.
During an exclusive interview with KTN, Kimayo also indicated that he will investigate police officers implicated in the gold scandal unearthed by KTN, and one that has put proposed Deputy Inspector General Ndegwa Mohoro on the spot.
Hatuwezi kulaumu au kutulumu ofisa yoyote kama jina lako limetachwa na hakuna uchunguzi umefanywa kuthibitisha haya yote. Uthibitisho kubwa zaidi ni uchunguzi, na ndipo nilikuwa namsema hapo awali kwamba uchunguzi kifanywa, basi ikiwa na ushahidi ya kutosha, hapo huyo ofisa pia atachukuliwa hatua kulingana na sheria ya nchi hii.
Kimayo has also indicated that he will address the conflict in Tana Delta. However, he was not specific on how he would stop the killings, given that the presence of the General Service Unit officers has not done much to end the bloodletting.
Na natarajia tukitegemea hiyo mambo ya kumasikizana sote, kwa maana maisha ya binadamu ni ya muhimu sana. Hakuna mtu yoyote ile ambaye anastahili kuchukua maisha ya mtu.
David Kimayo, who has been sworn in as the first Inspector General of Kenya, takes over from former Police Commissioner Matthew Witere. So he has made his promises, and now he has to prove that his promises are not just words, but will be translated into action that Kenyans can believe in. Catherine Omwando, KTN in Nairobi.
So, who is this man who now becomes Kenya's first Inspector General under the new constitution? 52-year-old Kimayo joined the Kenya Police Force 32 years ago. Kimayo, who is a career police officer, has risen through the ranks to serve as Presidential Escort Unit Commander, General Service Unit Commandant, and a Director of Operations at Police Headquarters. Until his appointment to the new post, he had been the Director of the Kenya National Focal Point on Small Arms and Light Weapons. He holds a Bachelor of Theology from the Beacon University of Institute Ministry in USA, a Master of Science in Criminology and Criminal Justice from the University of Leicester in the United Kingdom, and a Master of Theology from the Beacon University of Institute Ministry in USA. He is currently pursuing a PhD in Criminology and Social Order from the University of Nairobi. Kimayo, who underwent a VIP protection course from Tel Aviv in Israel, is said to be well versed with the force and takes over from Matthew Witere, who was the police commissioner. He holds several awards, such as Order of the Chief of Burning Spear, Order of the Elder of the Burning Spear, Order of the Moran of the Burning Spear, and Head of State Commendation, among others. So that is the man who now becomes Kenya's Inspector General. That is a brief history of who he is, and of course now you have an idea of the kind of person that is now having to sit on that seat. Now, criminals will be warned. That was the message sent out by new Inspector General David Kimayo. He made this the outstanding pledge of his 4-year non-renewable term. But Kimayo has a lot in his entry, from numerous security challenges to the police reform agenda and the quest for his deputy. KTN's Eric Njoka reports on the pending business awaiting the IG.
I, David Mole Kimayo, having been appointed as Inspector General under the National Police Service Act 2011.
And as he took the oath of office in front of Chief Justice Willy Mutunga to become Kenya's first Inspector General of Police, David Kimayo's promise was steadfast and outright to the public.
We shall spare no effort in our quest to restore security in our country.
However, a full entry awaits Kimayo to embark on his first assignment, joining a security team led by Internal Security Minister Kato Olemetito that will travel to Tana River County to ascertain the level of the violence that befell it in the recent months. Under the new constitution, Article 245, the Inspector General has the powers to implement policy decisions, coordinate all police operations and functioning of the police service, determine the distribution and deployment of officers in service, and recommend to the Commission and the county policing authorities, act on the recommendations of the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, including compensation to victims of police misconduct, among others. His appointment comes at a time when the country is facing major security threats, especially from the Al-Shabaab militia, who have terrorized and maimed a number of Kenyans by use of explosives. Kimayo will also encounter the challenge of containing violence that has rocked several parts of the country, including the Garissa terror attacks and the Baragoi banditry. Kimayo also comes into office at a time when the service is facing many challenges of lack of equipment and low morale, which has posed a major police reform hurdle for the outgoing Commissioner of Police, Matthew Itere.
Sasa ni amri kwamba you must change the attitude change that I talked about. Ni lazima hizo mabadiliko iweze kufanyika na tuanze upya tukiendelea kutumikia wananchi yetu ya Kenya.
Appointments of the two Deputy Inspector General nominees Ndegwa Mohoro and Samuel Arachi are also in the offing, despite various speculations that before their integrity. The Independent Policing Oversight Authority had opposed their nomination, especially that of Mohoro, citing serious allegations touching on drug trafficking, tribalism, and the roles they played during the 2008 post-election violence, in addition to contempt of court charges. There is also the alleged breach of Section 14 of the National Police Service Act on gender parity, which would require one of the deputies to be female.
The new IG has a big task ahead of him, since he has to assure Kenyans that everything will be tackled according to the rules of the land. He also needs to assure them that the elections will be conducted as peaceful as ever, unlike the case in 2007. Eric Njoka, KTN, Nairobi.
And that story brings us to a big question tonight, and we're asking you to tell us what you would like to see in the new Inspector General's list of things to do. What would you like to see the new Inspector General focus on? Send your brief comments to our SMS number 8040. Of course, we will be sampling some of your comments at the end of this live newscast. Let's take a look at politics now. The United Democratic Front, UDF, has petitioned the Registrar of Political Parties of a breach of contract by the Jubilee Alliance. In a move that is unlikely to alter his current Lone Ranger status, Mudavadi's UDF accuses the Jubilee coalition of violating the presidential nomination procedure and want the Registrar of Parties to declare the endorsement of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto null and void. And as Sam Ogina now reports, the UDF stance has provoked anger in the Jubilee Alliance.
The Jubilee Alliance is still entangled in an intricate web of power play against its former ally, UDF. Just a day after the controversy-ridden alliance endorsed Deputy Prime Minister Uhuru Kenyatta as its presidential candidate, UDF has renewed the power tussle, petitioning the Register of Political Parties on grounds of breach of contract by TNA and URP on picking its presidential candidate. A letter by UDF Chairman Hassan Osman, copied to the chairman of TNA and URP and also to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, reads in part, quote, "There exists a misunderstanding as to how the nomination of the presidential candidate ought to be conducted, whether by consensus or through delegates," end of quote. UDF party leader Musalia Mudavadi rejected the nomination contest to pick the alliance flag bearer, prompting a collapse of the UDF Jubilee Alliance. The flashpoint being a confidential Uhuru Mudavadi deal where Uhuru ceded presidency but later recanted the deal. The party claims a dispute resolution mechanism contained in the Jubilee Coalition Agreement to defuse the acrimony then was bypassed.
That in the spirit of ensuring that we do not detract at this critical time, we should be able to disengage.
Have agreed by mutual consent to disengage and allow UDF to campaign.
But to muddy the political waters Mudavadi is wading through is a petition by his party officials dated 4th December. UDF National Executive Committee members wrote to the Register of Political Parties asking for the nullification of the UDF-TNA-URP Pact. The letter states, and I quote, that the purported coalition agreement deposited with the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties between UDF and TNA and URP is null and void, having not received any consent from UDF's governing body, and therefore petition the Office of the Registrar to nullify the same. End of quote.
Yule aliweka sahihi ni yule ambaye alikuwa pale akaweka sahihi. Sasa kama yeye anaruka ni yeye akiruka, lakini Wakenya wamtazame ili wakati wa kupiga kura wahakikishe kwamba wanapiga kura watu wasiwe wakigeuka wananchi ambao wanawachagua.
It is this flip-flopping on UDF's side that has act insiders in the Jubilee Alliance who say UDF lacks premise for arbitration on a breach of contract. A contract which they denounced even before the ink dried on the deal between Mudavadi, Uhuru and Ruto on the deadline day of pre-coalition pact submission. Samogina, KTN Prime.
And on the campaign trail, Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka made his first appearance as the official running mate in the CORD coalition and assured Kenyans that a CORD government will eradicate negative ethnicity. Elsewhere, Alliance Party of Kenya and the Eagle Alliance were in Tharaka Nithi and Narok respectively. Edith Kimani with the day's other political stories in our politics wrap.
It was his first public address since the official announcement of the CORD lineup on Saturday, and the Vice President's language had already changed in line with the latest developments. Instead of fronting his Wiper party, he was pushing the CORD agenda, assuring Kenyans of an ethnicity-free country if CORD wins next year.
We want this time to kumaliza uchaguzi huu. I give you my assurance. Kenyans are going to think like Kenya now. Ukabila utakuwa tumezika. So wote ambao wana nia nzuri ya kuzika ukabila, mwaka wa kuzika ukabila ni 2013.
The Eagle Alliance of Peter Kenneth, Eugene Wamalwa and Raphael Tuju were in Kilgoris, Narok County, where they dismissed the assertions that the race to State House is a two-horse race.
We do not want Kenyans to be boxed to only two groups. We want Kenyans waangalie waone, si wawili tu, kuna wengi. Na nani wanaweza kazi.
Elsewhere, the Mbas resurfaced in Chogoria, Tharaka Nithi County, with Energy Minister and Alliance Party of Kenya leader Kiraitu Murungi urging candidates vying for elective posts to keep off mudslinging during the campaigns. He challenged all aspirants on the campaign trail to lead by example, keeping off divisive talks.
Ile siasa tunataka ni siasa ya maendeleo. Let us enjoy when we are here. Tushikane mikono, tujiinue, tukiwa neighbors.
And barely a day after Muslim leaders declared their support for the CORD presidential candidate Raila Odinga, a section of Muslim leaders in Nairobi have come out to dismiss the endorsement that took place at the Prime Minister's Karen home.
There has been no agenda, Islamic agenda. There has been nowhere that the Muslim sat down and decided to support one individual for the presidency. Anyone who claims, or any group that claims that they are representing the Muslims, they are lying.
Tomorrow is expected to be a rest day for the politicians as they take a break to celebrate Christmas with their families. Edith Kimani, KTN Prime.
At least 2 people died and over 70 people have been rendered homeless following a fierce fire in the sprawling Mathare slums last night. Eyewitnesses told KTN that the fire was started by a group of youth on a revenge mission, but it spread to other adjacent houses. Sophia Wanuna reports on the fire tragedy that has ruined Christmas for a section of Mathare residents.
It is a gloomy Christmas Eve for tens of families in Mathare slums. At least 2 people were killed last night in what a brother to one of the deceased claims was a revenge mission by a group of youth. According to him, the gang stormed into his brother's house 8 p.m. last night, hacked him and his companion to death before setting the house ablaze.
Na walimfungia ndani ya nyumba mpaka wakamteketeza wakiwa watu wawili na rafiki yake ambao kwa wakati huu simtabui ni nani. Kuanzia asubuhi mpaka saa hii hatujapata hata polisi mmoja atakaye kuja kutuelekeza ni njia gani ama ni mbinu gani tutakayoichukua ili tupate kuondoa mwili hizi mili na kuzipeleka katika kuhifadhi katika mortuary.
His car, which was parked outside his house, was also set ablaze. They then went on to torch a shop belonging to his nephew, who also lives in Mathare. The fire spread to neighboring houses until it was put out by the fire brigade 2 hours later. An area resident told KTN that at least 70 families were left homeless, with property worth thousands of shillings destroyed.
Sasa tumechomeka zote zimechomeka kwa nyumba. Hakuna hata kitu moja nimeokoa.
Mimi nimetoka na longo moja na sati moja na inawa moja na viatu moja peke yake. Masini yangu yote imechomeka, kuna kitu nimeokoa. Kwa customer hata kuna kitu nimepata. Mimi sasa nabaki vile naona hivi na mkono yangu tu.
Kana vile tuko hivi ndio vile niko. Nikafuta mtoto tu nikachimbia naye.
Area residents say security in the area has deteriorated and are calling upon security organs to intervene. Sophia Wanuna, KTN.
Right, as the drums roll to usher in the festive season starting tonight, Kenyans will have to make do without medical services in public hospitals until next year. The unregistered nurses' umbrella bodies have announced that the ongoing strike will continue throughout the Christmas break as they await a meeting with government officials scheduled for 3rd of January. And as Anne Soimwende reports, even the threat of losing their jobs is not dampening their spirits.
After a weekend break, these public sector nurses converged at Uhuru Park, in their words, to remind Kenyans and government that their strike is still on.
So let the government tell the public how many patients, how many Kenyans are going to die before they address the concerns of nurses.
It is not the nurses' wish that they are on the strike. The government pushed nurses to go on strike.
These nurses from Nairobi and surrounding counties resolved to defy the threat of losing their jobs. It is a week now since the government issued an ultimatum to the nurses to resume work, but they are not relenting. The officials informed their members that they went to the Prime Minister's office on Monday morning and were invited to a meeting on the 3rd of January 2013.
We shall await next year. If they give us 2014, we shall await for 2014.
The Minister for Medical Services has declared the strike illegal and asked the nurses to return to work to no avail. The National Labour Board declined to register the union, stating that nurses are sufficiently represented by the Civil Servants Union.
Nurses are not going to give up on the quest for their rights, which are constitutional.
Hospital wards in many healthcare facilities remain deserted as doctors and clinical officers attend to outpatients seeking their services.
We are really feeling it when somebody is calling you and asking you, why are you not opening the facility? And we had to tell them the reason why we are going on street, not only for the benefit of nurses, it is for the benefit of the community too.
Ordinarily, nurses are among workers who do not take a break to celebrate Christmas and the New Year with their families. But this time round, they say that this strike has afforded them a free Christmas, even though it is at the expense of ailing Kenyans. And as they bid each other happy holidays, they plan to meet here again on the 27th of this month and on the 3rd of January, just to make sure that the spirit of the strike is not dampened. Anso Mwendia, KTN, Nairobi.
50 people arrested in connection with the attacks in Kipao village, which claimed over 40 lives, were arraigned in court today. Most of the suspects who were arrested in a soup in Ngao village were charged with possession of offensive weapons with intent to commit felony. They denied the charges and were released on a 30,000 shilling bond plus a surety of the same amount or a 20,000 shilling cash bail. Their case will be mentioned again on the 7th of January and hearings set for the 15th. Senior Principal Magistrate Justice Mutuku also detained two suspects for 7 days pending further investigations. Meanwhile, the new Inspector General of Police, David Kimayo, is expected to visit the Tana Delta this week in the wake of renewed tension. Kimayo's hands will be full as they have to find a lasting solution to the violence, besides dealing with the allegations that police received intelligence on the Kipao attacks but failed to act on it. Also, public service commissioners in waiting were today grilled by the Parliamentary Committee on Administration and National Security as the vetting exercise continued in earnest. Professor Margaret Kobia, who has been nominated to serve as chairperson of the commission, and Permanent Secretary for Public Service Titus Ndambuki were among those who had to respond to public complaints raised against them during the vetting process. Patrick Amimo sampled some of the parliamentary committee proceedings.
The House Committee on Administration grilled 9 people who have been nominated to serve in the restructured Public Service Commission to gauge their suitability.
Service Commission that would deliver strategy.
Professor Margaret Kobia, who is Director of Kenya School of Government, is expected to chair the commission, but she had to clear herself against allegations of influencing appointments based on nepotism and ethnicity.
The person was in job group M, and they wanted somebody in job group T. And through your influence and other officers named here, you managed to secure the job for that particular person, which raises serious integrity issues.
I know she applied for the job. She got it. She got it. I think secretary. But what she was before chair, I would not know. And I have no influence whatsoever.
Permanent Secretary for Public Service Titus Ndambuki has been nominated to serve as a member of the Public Service Commission. Ndambuki defended himself on why he applied for the lesser position and not the chairpersons.
And I was looking at even the IEBC, where we also have the former chairman of the Public Service Commission, Engineer Sharawe, also being a member of the IEBC. I was looking also at the CIC, where we have the former permanent secretary, Mr. Moisaka. So I saw that as where the country is going, where you have commissions who have very experienced officers. If we want to change this country, we need those experienced permanent secretaries and the public officers.
Other nominees to the Public Service Commission vetted by the House Committee included former Clerk of National Assembly Patrick Gishohi and former Foreign Affairs PS Peter Nkuraia. Other members were Professor Michael Lokuruka, Lawrence Nyale, Veronica Chemtai Birgen, Catherine Raini Omweno, and Dr. Judith Emboi Buonya. Patrick Amimo, KTN Prime.
The head of Civil Service and Secretary to the Cabinet, Francis Kimemia, has promised the remaining internally displaced persons that the government will resettle them before the end of January next year. Speaking at Kisima Farm in Njoro District, Kimemia praised government's efforts in trying to ensure that all families uprooted from their homes in 2007 and 2008 have a place to call home. According to him, out of the 8,600 households displaced following the disputed presidential results, it's only 800 households that are still awaiting new homes.
Wote walikuwa wengi, tumeseto wamebaki 5,000. Na tunataka kuona kwamba hao wote pia 5,000 na wale 800 wote wamepata mashamba zao. Hasa kama ingewezekana ifanywe mwezi wa Januari, kabla mwezi wa Januari kuisha, tukitumia hilo system mbili. Ile yetu sisi serikali kutafuta mashamba na pia wao wenyewe.
In the same breath, it is just a day before Christmas, and Kenyans around the country are preparing to celebrate the festive season in various ways. Also celebrating are internally displaced persons of Chemusian area in North Rift. This is after they received Christmas goodies from the government, but for one particular family, however, the donations could not have come at a better time. Masi Kandie with that story.
A different picture of the internally displaced persons. Today, the tune changes. They are not complaining, but are dancing some of their troubles away. A day before Christmas, and the Chemusian IDPs get a reason to smile. They have received food donations from the government. Among them is 30-year-old Lina Chepkoech, and as the rest dance, today she walks home with a lighter load. She has food enough for the festive season.
Kesho tutakula hunga, chapati, nyama iko tena, na marakwe tena iko, na fia sota iko.
The journey from Mau Forest after being evicted by the government has been a tough one for Chepkoech. The single mother tells me she has had enough hurdles in life, so tomorrow for her is different. She is as excited as her children. The month of December has brought good. She has just moved from the tents into a newly constructed home.
Nyumba yetu kwa Christmas tunafurahi sana kwa nyumba yetu mpya, na Christmas tumekaribia. Tuko na vitu vingi sana. Sasa tunafurahi sana.
Her 7 children look up to her, and as many others get in the mood for Christmas, Chepkoech tells me that they do not have enough, but the thought that her children are in good health is enough. In the towns, the festive mood has set in. Many making last-minute shopping, others traveling to be with family as the matatu stage fills.
Tunatarajia kesho Christmas njema. Tunatayarisha kuku leo italala kabisa.
Kulingana na matayarisho ya Krismasi, nafikiria tumejipanga. Isipokuwa tu shida ni mambo ya usafiri. Ukitaka kusafiri kwenda mahali, magari inakuwa ni chache.
Ndachinjia watoto kondoo waweze kung'ara na vitu vingine ambavyo vimeleta sahi kutoka supermarket.
Christmas Day is celebrated on the 25th day of December by Christian faithfuls to commemorate the birth of Jesus. So many travel up country to meet with family, while others, it is time to eat and make merry.
Regardless of what you get or do not get for Christmas, regardless of where you go or do not go for Christmas, you may find at least one reason to be thankful as the year comes to an end. Marcy Kendi reporting for KTN in Eldoret Town, Uasin Gishu County.
From the Rift Valley to central Kenya, where some boda operators in Nyeri have embraced the spirit of giving and taken it to another level. They have chosen to cheer up the lives of one family in Gyakanja area whose 5 members are living with mental disability. The poverty-stricken household has had tough times trying to meet its needs, but they will be smiling this Christmas after the operators sought to share the little they had with the family. KTN's Carol Ndere with that story.
It is a family struggling to make ends meet, just as many families around the country are, but theirs is a little different. This family in Gyakanja area of Nyeri has 5 of its members living with mental disability and physical handicap. From the eldest child, 20-year-old Joseph Maina, 17-year-old Joseph Kamau, 11-year-old Samuel Ngare, and 8-year-old James Wangombe, all living with various forms of disabilities since birth. Their 40-year-old mother, Jane Gadhoni, has her arms full as she often has to look for manual jobs to meet her family's needs and at the same time look after her dependent children who rely on her for their every single need.
Shida yenye nimepitia ni shida nyingi. Kwa maana nikipewa watoto wanakuwa na shida, hawatembei. Hebu niseme nimesumbuka sana mpaka wa leo kwa maana niko peke yangu. Hebu niseme watoto yangu ni mmoja tu ameenda shule.
And for them, Christmas looked gloomy until they received a surprise visit from boda operators in the area who contributed money amongst themselves to make their day. Foodstuffs to see the family through this festive period and lean times to come in January.
You don't have to go and eat a lot of meat, and then there's some people here who are disabled, who doesn't have something to eat.
Watoto wa hii boma hawajiwezi, na tukaona kwa sababu Mungu ametubariki na uzima, tukaona ni heri afadhali tukikula Christmas yetu tuwe pamoja na wale hawajiwezi.
Poverty has hit this home hard that not only is it an uphill task for their mother to feed and clothe them, but she can barely pay for special education. Only Samuel Ngare has gone to school, having been facilitated by a well-wisher at the Joytown School for the Disabled, where he recently sat for his KCPE examinations. And as we make plans to liven up Christmas, remember there are those who need us to spread the joy to them. For many, Christmas is a time to make merry, but it is also important to spread the good cheer, for there is joy in sharing. Carol Ndere for KTN in Gyakanja, Nyeri County.